Trace McSorley, throw it on a dime, like I ain't even trying. Just a kid from Briarwoods, I'm wearing number 9. Met Coach Franklin down at...
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the MVP show. It is December 6th, 2020, and for this episode, we have an exclusive interview, and I'm John Vicari, joined alongside by Brennan Miller and Dan Passante, but also a special guest. This man has climbed to internet fame for his song Trace McSorley, which has over 800,000 plays on Spotify, over 3 million views on YouTube, and has blown up on TikTok. You probably heard the song, but now it's the man behind the song, and that is Matty Fresh. Matty Fresh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me. That's probably the best intro I've had in a while. That got me hyped. That was a good one. I got to bring you out. You got to be my promoter for my next show. I got to have you bring me out next time. That was pretty good.
Hey, you write us a rap or an intro for the show, and I'll promote you. That's the trade-off. But to delve into this, first off, I just through researching, you started music and I guess performing in high school, and you had a couple of songs that had relatively were popular, but nothing to the extent of Trace McSorley. But I was wondering what your inspiration was to keep pursuing and doing music from high school into college at Penn State.
Well, I think it's more been just a passion for ideas for me than it has been for music. I love making music. I'm not going to lie. I don't think I would necessarily classify myself as a musician. A lot of these guys have been playing a lot of instruments since they were a young kid. That wasn't really me. I mean, I was into sports. And, making music kind of became a little bit of a hobby. And I started to get like ideas, and I'm like, some of the best ideas that I had were things that could be put into songs. So I decided to roll with that medium when there was like a couple different ways that I could have kind of captured that. I thought rap is the easiest way. It's the easiest way to get your foot in the door, and it's so easy to put a song up now. Like literally anybody could do it. So obviously the inspiration was being a Penn State football fan since I can remember. I was born and raised. My dad had season tickets since I was 3 or 4 years old. It's a huge part of my identity. And obviously Penn State, kind of rising from the ashes and coming back in the 2016 season, and then having some continued success throughout the late 2010s there, kind of inspired me to make a couple songs while I was in college. So.
Specifically with the Trace McSorley song, because I get inspiration behind making a song about Saquon Barkley because he was a projected first-round pick. But first, what was the inspiration behind making a song for specifically Trace McSorley and the decision to do it in the first-person point of view like you were Trace McSorley?
Yeah, so if you listen to Saquon, it's very similar. I just thought that's – if you listen to rap, there's a lot of that. A lot of mainstream rap nowadays kind of has rappers – characterizing themselves and telling other people's stories. But yeah, I mean, Saquon obviously wrote itself. That was a no-brainer. I just felt like he needed a song. I mean, he was like a generational talent and a kid that was going to go on and have a Hall of Fame NFL career, in my opinion. So that one wrote itself. But yeah, I didn't want to do another one, honestly. And it just kind of came natural. I was going into my senior year. It was kind of one last hurrah. And it wasn't forced. It was like, at that point, everybody had left the team to go pro. And there were so many good players on that 2017 Penn State team that I felt Trace was coming back. And it was like, okay, now this is McSorley's team. Like, he's not living in the shadows of Saquon Barkley anymore. This is his team now. And I just always thought that Trace's backstory was almost even better than Saquon's. People recruiting him as a safety out of high school. Nobody gave him offers as a quarterback, couldn't get any big offers. Small kid, star in high school, started as a freshman, led his team to 4 straight state championship appearances. I just thought he had a really good story as a kid who had a lot to prove, because you look at Trace McSorley and you're like, what's this kid really going to give you? You don't know until he plays. So that kind of wrote itself too. And he's just kind of an everyday guy. Like, you look at Saquon Barkley, he's an absolute freak. You look at him, you're like, absolute prototype. But you look at Trace McSorley, you're like walking on a college campus, you're like, just like every other dude out there. He's one of us. So it's like the fact that he's out there throwing dimes and, I go back to the Big Ten championship game in 2016, just some of the throws he made in that game. Like, it's pretty unbelievable for just, a kid like you and I. So
I guess I'm coming next here. I mentioned on last week's show that Matty Fresh and I have the Stallions connection. A few summers ago, we were able to intern for the same collegiate baseball team in my hometown. Great.
Roll ponies.
roll ponies. But to stay on the Penn State theme here with the song, I guess I'll ask, what kind of research went into putting these songs together? Did you spend hours writing lyrics and like crumpling up the paper and throwing it in the trash can, or what was that process like?
I do my best writing when I'm like in the car, just the beats on loop. And you know what? It's crazy, Danny, that you bring up Socrates, because there's actually a connection here. The Trace song comes out in August of 2018. When do you think I'm writing that song? On my drives back and forth when we had breaks to Socrates. Like, if we had the team on the road for 10 days, I'm back home to Eastern PA, and I got that beat that you guys all know now on loop probably 200 times on that commute, and I'm finishing the song on the drive. That's when I do my best writing. I'm not really a pen and paper guy. I just like to hear it while I'm driving, and my mind is clear and I'm not having any distractions, and that's where I do my best writing. But yeah, that song was actually being written on those commutes, and if not for Socrates, who knows? Maybe that never happens.
In terms of with Trace McSorley, just going back, because I think this is sort of the creative process as well, but did you have any interactions with Trace McSorley on campus and since this song has blown up?
Yeah, so Trace and I go back and forth a little bit. Obviously, when the Saquon song first came out, I attended Media Day as part of the student radio station that I was at for Penn State before the season in 2017. And that's when the team was kind of introduced to me through the Saquon song. It was funny because I was just trying to get a couple of interviews with some players just to like do my job as like a journalist at the time. And they kind of noticed, I guess, that, some players were talking and they were like, that's the guy that wrote the song. And that's kind of where I met Trace. He was actually hyping up the Saquon song, and, Saquon, very humble guy. So he was like chill about it, but that's kind of how I met Trace and some of the other players on the team. So then, fast forward a year later, they're obviously thrilled to hear the Trace song come out, at least the guys that were still on the team. So yeah. And then just recently just had a little back and forth where, we were both kind of reflecting on how unbelievable this whole thing has been. And he's a really cool dude. Like, he's like, I'm glad that, I've been able to get some attention off of it, that he was happy for me, and I'm obviously thrilled for him. So, yeah.
I'll in here. So, when you look at, I guess, both the songs, you look at the YouTube video, obviously I don't know how many views it had prior to it kind of blowing up on TikTok, but you mentioned earlier that you released it in August of 2018. So I can't imagine it was, obviously it wasn't as big as it is now. What's it like for a song that you released like way back then to all of a sudden, go viral and kind of be this big hit thing that if you're on TikTok, if you're on social media, the NFL put a video out with the song just a few days ago when he made his first appearance in an NFL game. Like, what's it like for a song that you released 2 years ago to all of a sudden just be the biggest thing on social media?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. It's almost one of those things, and you guys probably have these in your life where you're sitting back and wondering, like, life has its twists and turns, and like, when's that next big break gonna kind of come? Like, they just come out of nowhere. It's just how life is. And I've learned that, a couple times, but sometimes you just get completely hit with something out of nowhere like this. Like, I woke up one morning and all of a sudden my views are, spiking dramatically. We've got like 250,000 views in 48 hours, things like that. Yeah, that song got 150K on YouTube prior to October of this year. So it was very big. Like a lot of my songs, like the first song that I ever did, which was about my hometown, Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania, the Saquon song, and then the Trace song, all very big locally, right? So like well known in the area. And then you take it, and I'm thinking, just some kids playing Madden on TikTok, whatever, not all that great, still cool. But then you start to see like the NFL and then the Ravens. And then I'm like, I cannot believe that this is catching on nationally. And then, we have the touchdown pass. yesterday, and now it's at a whole nother new level to where now we're not just TikTok. Now it's just like a thing on the whole internet. It's not just a TikTok meme anymore. So yeah, I always said, like, you go through your ups and downs in life, and then just things hit you out of nowhere, and you're like, yeah, kind of everything happens for a reason. You just gotta, everybody says, like, kind of cliche, like, trust the process, but it's true. Like, if you just kind of keep believing and don't give up, it might take 2 years, but that's the great thing about the internet. It's timeless. So nobody really cares that it came out 2 years ago. Like, nobody's thinking any less of the song because it was out in 2018. Everybody loves it regardless. So yeah, I'm so grateful that, the internet exists in the way that it does, that you can get, you can go from just kind of chilling to, having all this hype around one song that came out 2 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, you talked about writing back and forth from Socrates, listening to the beat, and just kind of writing lyrics as you went. Can you tell us a little bit about, the process? I don't know whether or not you made the actual beat yourself, if that was kind of the intention going in. And then obviously with the YouTube video, both the Saquon and the McSorley song both have pretty cool edits behind them as far as the video themselves. Was that you as well? Just take us through a little bit of the production process.
Yeah, so I've got some pretty cool, talented people around me, but I also am not like in a situation where I'm doing this professionally. Like, this is very much kind of a grassroots thing, and just kind of utilizing some of the people I know, hitting them up where I can. Obviously going to college for broadcast journalism, I know a lot of people that I went to school with that are very talented in different areas. And I also was able at Penn State to learn a lot of this stuff by myself. So it makes it a little easier when you have a project that you got to do several things. Like, you've got to edit, you've got to promote it on social. Obviously, one field I wish I was stronger in is like the audio engineering and, putting a track together and just making it sound good. But yeah, I guess the part that comes natural, I've just always loved like experimenting with like melody and like writing a catchy song. And I think that as music progresses, that's what you're seeing, especially with like TikTok. Like, we've got, and for some it's like they don't like it this way, but it's just kind of the way the times have gone. We've gotten away from deep lyrics, storytelling in music, to where it's now just very catchy beats that sound really good that you can dance to. So I kind of like recognized that trend early on, and now 2 years later, it's like that's pretty much what TikTok is and the big music nowadays. So like editing for those videos, the Trace one I took care of myself. For the Saquon one, that was somebody I had gone to college with that wanted to help out with that. But yeah, there's a lot that I'm just figuring it out on my own. Like, kind of this was something that came out of nowhere. So now I wasn't prepared, right? So I wish I was more prepared for this to blow up the way it was, because there were several boxes that needed to be checked early in October that, just some loose ends that needed to be tied up. Like, I needed to like get it on Spotify, and I wanted to get it. There's many reasons why it wasn't there. It wasn't that I just neglected to put it on there. I wasn't able to at that point. But yeah, no, I didn't make the beat. The beat was, sent to me by a producer. I love that. Like, I love to have a mailbox full of beats. That's pretty much my whole inbox in my email. I probably use, 1% of them, but I'm just like, send me as many beats. If you guys know anybody, tell them, like, I'll listen to every single beat that gets sent to me. Cause I don't make beats, and I wish I could, but like, there's some talented producers out there. And that's a huge part of it.
You talked about the ever-grow. Yeah, Brennan, you want to step in?
I was gonna say, I'll throw it to John here. I just want to say, my brother's on TikTok at Thanksgiving. My dad was scrolling through it, and I could hear him singing. I could hear it playing over his phone. Like, just absolutely, he's humming it afterwards. Like, literally, it's just become a song that's kind of penetrated not just social media, but like the American house as well. Where my dad's 50 years old, and he knows the song and can sing it on his own if need be. So I'll just tell you, man, that's awesome. And happy for you for sure. But I'll pass it, John. He's got another question.
I actually have a thought on that. As much as it's about social media and how big that of a marketing tool that can be, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a broadcaster, artist, producer, editor, whatever. But even more, like, word of mouth, like, still exists. And I think that's still kind of the best way to get your brand and like your product around. And that's like the one theme that all my songs have in common, because I've always tried to like go into the process saying, I want this to be something that people will send to their friends and family. Like, there's a lot of music out there that we listen to and we enjoy it personally, but is it something that you're going to be like, put someone else onto? You know, and I kind of think that that's what this has gone for. It's like something that you want to show everybody and be like, yo, look how crazy this is. Like, this doesn't make any sense. But I guess more so now it makes a little bit of sense because he actually got in a game and threw a touchdown pass. But like at the beginning, it was like he's a third string quarterback. But, you know, it's bringing people into my world where like Trace was an absolute hero and he was just like a Penn State legend, you know, and not everybody knew about that at the time. So.
You talked about the ever-growing process of this song coming into the mainstream. So I was wondering if any like athletes or other NFL players have reached out to you specifically asking for a song or anything in the creative sphere.
No players. You know what I've had a ton of though? It's funny. My DMs are flooded with like high school players that are like, yo, make a remix of Trace. And I just always think that's funny because it's like, you know, shoot your shot, I guess, right? But like, how many songs do you really think I'm gonna make here? But yeah, no pro players or anything. In fact, I'm kind of glad that hasn't happened. Not because like I wouldn't do it, but because I kind of like, you know, want to put the whole player song thing like to rest for now. Like it worked for the time, but like the new music that I have coming out is gonna be like very true to me and stuff that I think people will enjoy. But like you don't want to like ruin a good thing, right? Like I think a lot of people on the internet like they get caught up in the trend and they're like, oh, I want to do more of this until it's watered down. It's just not funny anymore. So like that's what like everyone's like, make this song, make that song. I'm like, you know, you say that, but if I did it, it'd be like, oh, it's not as good, you know? So it's hard to top this one. That's another thing. Like
right,
this,
it's a high bar.
It's gonna be real
millions of views at this point. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess if it was big enough, I would have to consider it. But no, luckily haven't anything yet because I'd feel way too much pressure if that happened. But, yeah.
For your new music, what kind of direction is that going in? What is it, rap? Is it something else? Explain a little bit about the new music that's coming.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what I was saying with identifying that trend and how, you know, not necessarily making music specifically for TikTok, but just making music that's danceable and catchy. And, you know, that's kind of, I mean, if you even go back on some of my older stuff, that's just kind of the vibe that I've always wanted to kind of put out. I just like that music. You know, I like the fun stuff, the upbeat, you know, the stuff that puts a smile on people's face. And I think the most important thing as an artist that I try to do is just keep it simple. Like don't overdo it. Anything that's like overproduced, it can end up just being a bad product because there's too much thought into it. Like some of these big songs that you guys are hearing nowadays, you know, top 40. I mean, these songs happened overnight. Like they're not overthought. Like they're just a simple beat, a simple hook, and you've got yourself a hit. So it's just like, you know, keeping it simple and not thinking that you have to spend a year making a song or making a project. That, you know, if you have a good idea, that this stuff can be simple. It doesn't have to be super hard work.
He is at Matty Fresh TV on Twitter. Thanks for hopping on. Is there anything you'd like to plug, promote at the end before we conclude?
Just the ponies, man. Roll ponies right there. Like that's something I'll never forget that summer. And I'm glad that you guys were able to have me on through that connection. It just goes to show you keep networking and the doors keep opening. I always have said through my music, doors have opened for me in other areas. So like I'm a broadcast journalism major. I would love one day to have my own like sports gambling show or just like cover sports again. Like, which right now I do a little bit of stuff on the radio here and there because, you know, music has kind of taken me in a direction where I want to pursue that for now. But like, yeah, I mean, here's another connection with the Stallions, and now you guys have me on the podcast. So I would just say, just keep networking. Everybody, always be networking. That's my one point of advice.
Matty Fresh, before we end, I got to ask a quick question because we are a sports show, and obviously you're a big Penn State guy, as we discussed. Do you want to tell us about Penn State football, or is that something we should
Man, I mean, Band-Aid last week, right? So, you know, everybody's kind of like, all right, you know, they put the Band-Aid on. That's what I'm kind of afraid that this week we might see the Band-Aid get ripped off and all the hair come with it. One of those like, oh, man, like Rutgers is scary. I mean, I know, you know, this year. They pulled off some impressive wins. They look very improved over Greg Schiano. I shouldn't have to worry about this, right? Like, I'm not worried about Penn State playing Rutgers in Piscataway at noon. Like, I shouldn't be, but am I? Absolutely. I'm terrified. You lose that game, that puts a cherry on top of this miserable season. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just I don't chalk it up all to COVID. I just think that it's just not the year. I mean, I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and Penn State got exposed. They got exposed as you can't keep certain success up forever. Like, it's just not, it doesn't work out that way unless you're Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State. It just doesn't. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Yeah, but tomorrow, terrified. I don't want to play them. I don't. I wish we could like cancel this game and just be like, yeah, we'll just we'll end the season 1-5. Seriously, I'll take it because I don't know. Those guys actually look like they want to play this year. So
some song analysis, football analysis from Matty Fresh. Again, thank you for hopping on the podcast with us. And again, we don't know your future, but it sounds bright from this conversation. So again, thank you for hopping on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.